Welcome to the Expressions of Destiny podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer, and today we're kicking off a special mini-series on burnout. So if you've listened in before, get ready. If this is your first time tuning in, buckle up that seatbelt because this is going to get good. So for the next few episodes, we're going to be digging into the real reasons why employees are burned out. But here's a spoiler alert. It's not just their problem. So today, we're going to be looking at the leadership issues behind burnout. Yes, the leadership issues. And if your employees are struggling, it's time to ask, what role do you play as a leader? And so, you guys, this is really going to get intense here. There may be some things that you don't want to hear, but that's okay. Because trigger warning, if it bothers you, if it offends you in any way, anything that I say, it may be time to take a step back and look at yourself. It might be time to reassess and evaluate the way that you operate in your position, in your role. And it doesn't mean that you're wrong. It doesn't mean that you're right. Sometimes we have to step back in humility and really look at ourselves. And I'm speaking as a leader as well. And you know, those who have been leaders for a long time, those who are new leaders, new business owners, this is a very important part in every area of business, is knowing that as a leader, we look at ourselves first, because it's not always the employee's fault. It's not always the leader's fault, but we certainly both play a role in these issues. So if you're new to the Expressions of Destiny podcast, just know that we are unscripted, encouraging, and purpose-filled always. Unscripted because we like to just tackle those issues in the moment. Encouraging because we're not just going to always slam with the bad. We're not going to come out with the negative. We're always going to be encouraging in some way because our place is to help you. And purpose-filled. Everything has to do with our purpose, walking in our purpose, knowing exactly what it is that we've been created for and created to do. And so our place and our purpose is to help you fulfill your purpose. And what better way to do that than to really touch on these difficult topics. They're really hard to talk about because we don't ever want to have to feel like we've done anything wrong. And I'm going to be saying we a lot because, like I said, in a position of leadership as well, you know, in past positions right now in my own business, just doing what we do on a daily basis, we have to be the example and we have to be willing to change. We have to be willing to correct things and we have to be willing to be humble in these moments. And so, like I said, we're going to be talking on burnout in the workplace. Burnout can occur in so many different areas of our life, but we're going to touch specifically on the workplace today and throughout the rest of this series. And so just to give you a couple of facts here, because we want to have an understanding of how important it is to talk about burnout. According to a Gallup poll, 36% of full-time employees in the United States experienced burnout in 2023. We are just at the beginning of 2025. And so this was roughly a year ago. So if we think about what has happened in 2024, the numbers, I'm sure, have increased. And we'll find that out once we get another poll on this topic. But as of now, in 2023, the full-time employees in the United States who experienced burnout was 36%. A global survey by Future Forum found that 42% of employees worldwide reported feeling burned out. So when we look at very specific statistics, we're going to see that 77% of employees have experienced burnout at their current job. These aren't past jobs. This is right now, in the moment, where they're at. 77%. That is huge. 52% of employees feel burned out because of their workload. Now, we can probably all understand that. 44% of employees feel burned out because of their work-life balance, which is sometimes a lot of what they can't help. We have to find that balance, and that can be difficult sometimes. And then 36% of employees feel burned out because of their lack of support from their manager. And this is why we touch on the leadership role, because like I've said before, and I'm going to always say, is that it is the leader's place, the business owner, the whatever title you want to hold. There are so many different, supervisor, whatever title. it is our position to set the foundation and to be that person who is going to help those that are there to help us grow. And if we are not supporting them, then this is why things like this happen. So let's go ahead and jump in here into a couple of topics that we really want to touch on in this first segment. And like I said, we're going to, this will probably be at least a 3-part series, maybe even more. It's all going to depend on how deep we go. And so one of the first things that I want to talk about is how burnout is often ignored and misunderstood. That's very important to pay attention to. I am very much a people watcher. I have learned my entire life to sit back, to keep my mouth closed, not in a bad way. It's not a negative thing, but to keep my mouth closed and just listen. A lot of things that I hear do not ever exit my mouth because I don't believe in running and sharing the gossip and the news. There will be times that people talk to me about certain situations, and I know that I'm there to be a listening ear, and when prompted to, when asked for some type of opinion on it, then I do share, because I want to be there to help others understand, but also to give them encouragement and more of a positive outlook on the situation. And so I've had conversations with people about feeling ignored and misunderstood. It has happened my entire career in different places, in different positions, different industries. For some reason, people come and talk to me. I don't know why. I didn't know why at the beginning, but I understand now, because my purpose is to listen and to help you. And so when I've sat and listened to these other people share with me, when they're sharing about their feelings, and I feel helpless a lot of times, because I'm in those other jobs, in those other industries that I worked in, I didn't have that leadership position. I wasn't in a place where I could make changes. I couldn't change that for them. And so it would break my heart to have to hear the stress in their voice, the exhaustion, the overwhelm, the feeling like it doesn't matter what they say, the feeling of being trapped, people not understanding their feelings or wanting to even acknowledge their feelings. And so this becomes a really, really huge problem, because now you have individuals that are working for you who are pretty much stuffing these emotions and these feelings inside once they have tried to cry out, and it has gone nowhere. It's fallen on deaf ears. And so they begin to stuff these concerns. They stuff these frustrations. And in a moment where they have an opportunity, everything blows up. Everything comes out all at once. And the people that are around that were not part of this are left trying to figure out what happened. They're trying to wrap their mind around where this even came from, because they didn't see the signs, because they didn't know the frustration that this individual or these certain people were dealing with and feeling, because they stuffed it all away. And so this is a very big problem in the workplace today. It's feeling like what you say just does not matter. Now, again, talking about leadership, and I'll say it over and over. If it offends you, if it upsets you, if you take things that I say to heart and it angers you or it triggers you, then it may mean that there's an issue and that you need to look at. If it doesn't bother you, then you're probably not this person or these people that I'm talking to. So let's just move on here for a moment. I'm going to say that over and over because it's a very hard topic. Leadership is a huge factor in preventing burnout. But the sad part is that it's rarely acknowledged. And so here's my message, that leaders need to step up to fix the problem. Now, how do we fix that? How are we supposed to identify these things and move in a more positive way? Well, we're going to talk more about that. But I want to kind of break down exactly what burnout is, and how leaders can then contribute to this burnout. So let's touch on a couple of these things. We're just going to kind of lay the foundation in this episode, and as we get into the next one, we'll start to get a little bit of a deeper dive on this subject. So first of all, what is burnout? It can be emotional, it can be physical, it can be mental, and it all stems or creates this exhaustion. I can very easily look at a person and know when they're burnt out. I've been able to see the signs over the years in so many people, from 20 years back to current day right now. I can look at a person and see burnout. A lot of the signs to the burnout is insomnia. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people in their conversations talk about insomnia. They didn't get enough sleep last night. They couldn't sleep at all. Their eyes just would not close. They only had an hour of sleep. They don't know what's going on. It's the third night that they haven't slept. There's so many people that talk about this issue. Insomnia. Irritability. Just people snapping for no reason. They're frustrated, and so they just lash out, and that is a reaction. We're taught to respond. We should be taught to respond. Our responses give us time to just stop and think before we speak. But when we react, it is done all on emotion. Forgetfulness. This is a huge one in the workplace. Have you ever had coworkers and they're always on top of their game? They always know exactly what to do. They have a schedule. They make notes. They write a list. I'm one of those list writers. I will write down all the things I know I need to get done within the week. I prioritize them. When I'm sitting at my desk, I'm constantly crossing out everything that has been done. If it's not done, it doesn't get crossed out. Not even a halfway. It has to be complete. And so if you have these, you notice these things in your coworkers. You know that they have a system. You know that they're always on top of their game. They may have a day off here and there because maybe they're not feeling well, but they're, for the most part, they know what to do. And so all of a sudden they begin to forget things. They forgot there was a meeting. They forgot that they were supposed to do something. They forgot that someone just asked them for something about 20 minutes ago. There's this element of forgetfulness that is very odd because it's so out of character from what you're used to seeing of this person. That is a sign of burnout. Physical instability. Now this one can go in so many different directions. Physical instability. It's being not stable in your physical. This can be something as easy and simple as noticing that someone is staggering. Noticing that they're kind of tripping over their own feet. They're losing their balance. They are walking in one direction and can't shift or pivot as quickly as what you know them to. There is some type of struggle there. They're sitting down a lot harder in their chairs. They're struggling to get up. I can go on and on. But when you begin to notice this physical instability and you're like, this person is a very strong person. I've never seen them act this way. It is because of that emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion. And these are just a few of the things. And so we have to understand that burnout isn't just about personal responsibility. We want to look at the individual. We want to say, what are you doing with your life? What's going on at home? Why aren't you taking care of yourself? We want to place the blame on the individual, but it's not just about personal responsibility. Yes, we need to learn how to take care of ourselves, but it's about workplace culture and leadership as well. Both of them play hand in hand. They both need to support one another. And so let me go ahead and share with you a couple of ways how leaders can contribute to burnout. One of the main ones is overloading employees. So this is when you see those unrealistic expectations. There's no buffer. There's no support. It's like, I need you to get this done. I need you to get it done within a certain time frame. There's no if, ands, or buts. It just needs to be done. You ask, when does it need to be done? And the answer sometimes is right now. And you're thinking, well, that's very unrealistic because I have other things that you have previously given me to work on, to complete. I have weekly tasks, I have daily tasks, I have a schedule, I have certain things, and you inserting something in here that has an unrealistic expectation is only going to add to the exhaustion, the frustration, the irritability, everything else that we just talked about. There's no excuses, there's no buffer, and there's no support. The next one is poor communication. Now, if you've been listening to our podcast for a while, you know that the foundation to everything is relationship and communication. When we talk about employee coaching, customer service training, businesses, how we operate, that relationship and that communication is so important. And so when we end up having this poor communication, which is really just when things aren't transparent, there's no transparency about goals or directions, there's no help, there's no clear direction on what you're supposed to be doing. It's kind of like, here, just figure it out on your own. There's no urgency to even try to communicate what needs to be done. There is, things that are brought up that are last minute that could be a situation of, oh, I meant to tell you that, or I forgot to tell you we need to work on this today, or we were supposed to be at this meeting, or I need you to show up for this and that, and they give you no instruction and no direction on what it is that you're supposed to do at that said meeting or event or whatever it is. It's just a show up and do what you can. So this is also one of the things that contributes to burnout. Ignoring well-being. Leaders might not recognize the toll on the employees if they ignore the well-being of their help. And I use that word in a very loving and positive way, because being the help means that I have been placed here in this position to help you grow in your business, to help you, and this is speaking from the employee's perspective, to help you grow in your business, to help your business grow, to help everything about this organization to be successful. I have been placed here to give my all, to do my best, to do things in excellence, and my well-being doesn't matter. Because it doesn't matter how much I'm doing to help support you, you are not supporting me. You're not thinking about where I might be emotionally, physically, or mentally. And so that begins to play a really heavy toll on individuals. They become tired. They become sick. Here's an example. An employee constantly is asked to do more with fewer resources. Can you imagine being asked to complete something or work on something or finish a task, and you're not being given the tools that you need to be successful? This only leads to more stress and more exhaustion. So I kind of want to stop here for this particular episode that we're going to be doing, because we're going to jump right back into the second part here in the next week or two. So just keep those notifications on so that you'll know when we upload the next part of this series. And I know we've talked a lot about the negative part of this, but it's very important for us to become aware, to be able to recognize the signs, and to also just really stop and think about it. Not to become upset, not to get frustrated, not to feel attacked. Like I said, I've been there many times as a leader and as a business owner where I have to step back and look at myself, and I have to change those things. And so the way that we approach businesses and the way that we approach companies and teams is that we always lay out the foundation first, and making sure that you understand that in every conversation that we have, every training that we have, we are always going to look at both sides. We're always going to draw out the great things and the issues that may need some help on both the employee side and the leader's side, or the business owner, or the supervisor, whoever it is that is over those particular employees. We are always going to look at both sides, because they both play a part. There is not a one person was wrong and the other one was not. And honestly, a lot of times both sides are wrong. Both sides have things that need to be dealt with, that need to be talked about and need to be worked out. The problem comes in when one of those sides doesn't want to budge, because they are not the one that's at fault. They're not the one that did wrong. And this is where we need to break down those walls, break down those barriers for just a moment, and really, really look at everything. Look at the entire picture and have a little grace on yourself, on the other person, and some humility. And so I want to leave you with that. There is one of my favorite quotes. I'm actually wearing my t-shirt today as I speak. But it says, brokenness is not a state of hopelessness, but a position of purpose. The Lord gave me that statement several years back. I wear it proudly on my t-shirt because I want people to always understand. You may be broken. You may be going through a hard time. You're not perfect. But brokenness is not a state of hopelessness. You are not at your end all, but it's a position of purpose. It is always an opportunity to really begin to grow, to recognize these things that we can work on, that we can change, and to see growth in our life, to see growth in our position, and to see growth in the way that we help others grow. And so I want to leave you with that today. Told you it's going to be a little bit of a trigger there, but we're going to make it through this. So keep tuning in. In the next episode, we're going to look at how the leadership behaviors show up in your workplace and why it's critical to understand the warning signs of burnout before it gets out of hand. So I want to leave you with this. Let's keep this conversation going. If you want to direct message me or comment with your burnout stories using the hashtag Burnout Starts at the top. Don't you just love that? And if this episode really resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Let's change workplace culture together. And I mean that with everything that is in me. It is so important. Back in the day, businesses were like families. There's still some out there. They're very far and few between. But they were like family. And we've completely lost that culture in a lot of these places, a lot of these businesses. So let's keep this conversation going. Again, share your stories with me. You can keep it anonymous, but I want to hear your stories. If you have a burnout story, use that hashtag Burnout Starts at the top. And again, let's change this workplace culture together. So thank you for tuning in to the Expressions of Destiny podcast. Don't forget to subscribe so that you can get those notifications on when this next episode is rolling out. And I will see you next time. God bless.